right, good morning. Well, thank you all for being here today. I'm Sheriff Mike Williams, and on behalf of the men and women of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, we are honored once again to be here hosting this annual event to help raise consciousness about domestic violence and awareness events that take place during the month of October. So before I begin, I want to thank Hubbard House for being our valued partner in both our annual event and as well as throughout the year. And today, here with us today are Gil Patton, the CEO of Hubbard House, Peggy Payne, CEO of Quigley House in Clay County, excuse me, Dr. Charles Moreland, on behalf of the Mayor's Office, and a special guest with us here today, Megan, who's a survivor of domestic violence. So we have a few of our trusted criminal justice partners here with us today also. My good friend and co-sheriff, Sheriff Daryl Daniels from Clay County is here with us. His chief and other members of the staff also represented here today. Chief Richard Pike of the Neptune Beach Police Department, along with Commander Gary Snyder. Jacksonville Beach Police Chief Pat Dooley, who's also here with us today. We're also joined by representatives of the Atlanta Beach Police Department. Carl Harms from the State Attorney's Office is here with us today, and the Baker County Sheriff's Office's Victims Advocate Whitney Dean is here with us today. So we have here various members of Duval County Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team, the group responsible for the compilation of this very comprehensive report, along with the 2016 Duval County Domestic Violence Intervention Project Committee. If you're here and you worked on the committee or were involved in the compiling of the data for this report being released today, please raise your hand. So I want to thank all of you for that hard work. Thank you very much. So again, also in attendance today, we have various staff members from JSO, Chief of Investigations Chris Butler, Assistant Chief of Crimes Against Persons Scott Dingy, Assistant Chiefs of Crimes Against Property Carson Tranquil, Assistant Chief of Community Affairs Elizabeth Kinney, Police Lieutenant Steve Gallagher from our Homicide Unit, and Police Lieutenant Sharon Scott, with members of the Special Assault Unit, as well as other JSO members here with us today who are committed to this issue. And also our Victims Advocate Kathy Pinnell and Rosario Austin are here with us today. So all of us up here stand together to show our commitment to addressing issues of domestic violence in our region. We know the importance of working together to make sure that all citizens understand that we will enforce the law and work to prevent further injury or death, to make sure that all victims can obtain social services and have their rights protected, and that we commit to continue to participate in all public education so cycles can be broken and relationships in our area can be free of abuse. Domestic violence happens in every community and in all kinds of families and relationships. Domestic violence partners may be married, intimate partners, in a dating relationship, have a child together, or related by blood. Persons of any socioeconomic class, culture, religion, sexual orientation, marital status, age, and sex can be victims or perpetrators of domestic violence. Usually children in homes where domestic violence is more likely, are more likely to be abused and or neglected. And even if a child is not physically harmed, they may have emotional and behavioral problems. So every October, we join together with our local law enforcement partners and regional domestic violence shelters to help raise public awareness about the dangers of domestic violence. Even though we stand together this one time, every year you can be certain that we are working behind the scenes to address this issue every day throughout the year. Often domestic and family violence is an uncomfortable topic for the public to hear about, but for us it's a good thing every time a victim finds the courage to call the police and ask someone to intervene. If one person learns about the many resources available to them as a victim and reaches out to any of us or chooses to leave, then we are closer to being successful in our mission to make every home a safe place free of violence. The reality is many domestic violence calls we don't receive meet the criteria of a criminal act. For example, there are civil matters that we get called to, like a spouse tells their partner to move out after an argument. We get a call because the individual is refusing to leave the property and the situation has the potential to escalate. Even if a call may not be a criminal incident, our officers are trained to respond and provide assistance. The past few years, we've used the phrase, intervention can stop escalation. And that is truly the foundation to preventing incidents in the future. As of late September, there have been more than 4,500 reported incidents of domestic violence in Duval County. This is down just a few incidents from last year. These potential victims, the sooner we can get them the necessary services the first time a domestic incident occurs, the more we can help prevent a potential domestic murder from occurring in the future. In 2016, there were 17 domestic violence related murders in Duval County. 5 of these cases, the suspect also committed suicide. As of Tuesday, September 19th of this year, there have been 7 domestic violence related murders in Duval County, and one of these cases was a murder-suicide. And this is still too many. To the families and friends who have been horribly impacted by these tragedies, you are not alone. To the victims of domestic violence, please hear this. We have an excellent domestic violence prevention program known as INVEST. The Intimate Violence Enhanced Services Team is a collaborative response to domestic violence. Between October 1st of 2016 to Monday, September 18th of this year, the INVEST team reviewed 7,397 reports. Out of those, 676 reports were identified as potential cases with victims who needed services and guidance, with 88 victims accepting those services. Now, that's fewer than 15% of those we identify as being in harm's way actually accepting services. The providers are here to help, and I ask anyone that hears this and is a victim to please accept their assistance. Just remember, domestic violence is not gender specific, race specific, or limited to any one socioeconomic class. It is important to recognize the 4 main types of abuse. And those types are physical abuse, which includes violent acts such as slapping, hitting, punching, or choking someone, throwing objects at them, or physically restraining someone. Or emotional abuse, which includes name calling, insults, verbal attacks, harming or threatening to harm another person's pet, and so forth. And sexual abuse. Some examples of this include someone forcing another person to engage in unwanted sex or sexual acts that make them uncomfortable, denying an individual contraception or protection, or forcing them to watch pornography. And lastly, economic abuse. This includes not allowing someone to work, isolating them by limiting their access to money, or controlling financial decisions, or taking control of another person's paycheck. More information about the indicators that I just highlighted can be found on Hubbard House's website at hubbardhouse.org. All of us here have the common goal of putting an end to domestic violence and helping prevent domestic murder from occurring. And this is one type of murder that is largely preventable. So to reach our goal, we will continue our partnerships with the shelters and law enforcement officials in all of our neighboring counties. And it is vital for us to raise awareness about domestic violence and about the help that is available, really at no charge. And one way that we all can help, that you can help, is subtle but powerful. So today at 12, we'll ask you to retweet, and repost on your personal social media accounts the messages from Hubbard House today. So let's show everyone that we stand together for these victims and for ending domestic and relationship violence in Jacksonville. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to ask my friend Charles Moreland to come to the podium. He has a proclamation and comments from the mayor. Charles.
Good morning. On behalf of our mayor, thank you for the opportunity to read the proclamation from our mayor. It says, whereas domestic violence is a crime that endangers every race, gender, age, and socioeconomic level. And whereas it is estimated that more than 25,000 local women, children, and men are victims of domestic violence annually. And whereas the crime of domestic violence destroys an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity, and whereas the destructive impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, affecting families, corporations, the criminal justice system, medical communities, and society as a whole. And whereas it is vital for our community to support victims of domestic violence and their children, victims can suffer grave financial, physical, and psychological losses. And whereas the perpetrators of domestic violence should face legal sanctions and receive help to overcome their abusive behavior. And whereas Hubbard House Incorporated strives to eradicate domestic violence in Jacksonville, providing services to more than 5,000 adults and children each year. Now therefore, I, Lenny Curry, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of Jacksonville, Florida, do hereby proclaim October 2017 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Jacksonville, and call upon all citizens to join me in working to eliminate personal and institutional violence against women, men, and children, and helping make every relationship violence-free. Thank you.
Charles, thank you, and thank the mayor, obviously, for participating today. So next, I'd like to invite Carl Harms from the State Attorney's Office to speak. Carl.
Good morning. My name is Carl Harms. I'm a victim specialist with the Homicide and Violent Crimes with the State Attorney's Office in Jacksonville. It's also my privilege to serve as a member of the Duval County Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team this year. The State Attorney's Office works in conjunction with representatives from Hubbard House, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, the Attorney General's Office, the Clerk of Courts, Child Protection Team, U.S. Navy, and the University of North Florida. The team meets monthly to review, analyze adult domestic violence homicides in Duval County that occurred the year prior. There is a separate team that reviews child homicides. In 2016, our team reviewed 16 cases that resulted in 17 deaths. Of those, 11 were involved intimate partners. We're at an all-time high for previous years reviewed by the board. But let's not forget that one case is far too many for this community, any community. Our team analyzes each case and makes findings and recommendations based on contributions from every member of the team. Of the 16 cases from 2016, 14, or 88% of them involved a male suspect, while 71% of the victims were female. This is the third year of a more skewed gender ratio. Women are still extremely vulnerable to fatalities and domestic violence incidences. Clearly, there remains an overwhelming gender disparity in those who commit domestic violence homicides in Duval County. This was no more obvious than in 2014, 15, and 2016. It is important for law enforcement, the courts, and service providers to regard all female victims of domestic violence as potential homicides. As in previous years, firearms remain primary weapon used in domestic violence homicides. However, in 2016, stabbings were at 41%, or higher than gunshot fatalities at 35%. This is higher than the overall pattern from 1997 to 2015, where 59% of the victims were killed by firearms and 21% by stabbings. It is important that assessments and safety planning be done when meeting with domestic violence victims, because removal of guns alone may not prevent that homicide. In the cases we reviewed this year, there were only 2 cases that involved prior arrest of domestic violence. A history of violence needs to be taken seriously. There continues to be a lack of understanding by victims and the general public regarding the potential for deadly violence by intimate partners. Domestic violence knows no gender barrier. It knows no racial barrier. And for the last 16 years, it's known no physical barrier. When there is a history of violence, or a victim reports violence, law enforcement, judges, prosecutors, and service providers need to take those reports seriously and respond aggressively. These scenarios can escalate and become deadly quickly. We have recommended that you ask yourself or your friends, family, co-workers, or anyone else you suspect might be affected by domestic violence these 3 questions. Number 1, has your partner ever used a weapon against you or threatened you with a weapon? Number 2, has your partner threatened to kill you or your children? Number 3, do you think your partner will kill you? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, you must recognize the danger could be fatal. Awareness leads to prevention. In 2016, 4,627 cases came through the state attorney's office. On average, that equates to approximately 18 new cases a day related to domestic violence. In those cases, we have a chance as community partners to intervene. We need the community, We need neighbors, friends, family, co-workers, all to recognize the signs of domestic violence. No one deserves to feel this pain. Help is out there. We need to reach for it. If you see someone suffering, stand up. Offer your hand, not your opinion. Don't hesitate to call a shelter and to talk to someone about what you can do to help a person you believe is a victim of domestic violence and how to help someone make a safety plan. We simply need you to report what you see. No one can go back and make a brand new start. However, all of us can start from now and make a brand new ending. Let us start now, and maybe next year you'll be the one who prevents a tragedy.
Carl, thank you. I want to thank you for the partnership. Obviously, Ms. Nelson, the State Attorney's Office, on this issue and many other issues. So thank you,
Sir.
for being here today. You know, listening to Carl's comments, I'm reminded of a tagline that we use for, domestic security and terrorism prevention, and see something, say something. And I think it absolutely applies to this issue as well. So, Carl, thank you for those comments. Next, I'd like to ask Gil Patton, the CEO of Hubbard House, to come forward. Gil.
For victims of domestic violence, I want you to know you are not alone. Today with me stands Peggy Payne, CEO from Quigley House serving Clay County. Together, we make this promise to you. You can find safety. The 2016 Domestic Violence Fatality Review Report shows that more intervention is needed and that domestic violence homicides are dramatically increasing. Each year, we sadly note there was often no opportunity to intervene because victims didn't seek services. There were seldom previous police interventions because no one called for help. The truth is this: when we have the opportunity to intervene, lives are saved. For bystanders, this means if you see or hear something that is or could become violent, say something. Pick up the phone and tell authorities. They are trained to safely get help to victims. And if you are in a tough situation and your partner is hurting you, find a safe space, find a safe phone, and call the domestic violence hotline. And that number is 1-800-500-1119. The help is free and the call is confidential. Year after year, we find that those who die aren't seeking help from authorities or services from domestic violence centers like Hubbard House or Quigley House. We need to change that now. We must save more lives. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I often hear concerned citizens ask, how can I help? You have the power to help raise awareness in the community and among your friends, families, and coworkers right now. Here's one way. Help to make our October 3rd message go viral. Go to Facebook or Twitter and find Hubbard House. Then share today's post and encourage your friends to share it too. It contains our 24/7 hotline number and life-saving information. Since 1 in 4 women are the victims of intimate partner, physical abuse, sexual abuse, or stalking in their lifetime, you will reach someone who needs help. Someone we could not have reached, you can reach. As a side note, however, for the safety of victims of domestic violence, please do not tag them when you are posting because it could be dangerous for them. Through your support of Hubbard House and Quigley House and our public awareness campaign, we may prevent a tragedy, and I say we can prevent a tragedy when we all spread the message. So together, we can stop domestic violence in Northeast Florida. Our next speaker is a domestic violence survivor who experienced the worst kind of tragedy. Megan.
Lying on the floor breathing, thinking thinking that this was it. I was going to die. I wasn't going to make it. I just lost my children and saw my father shot again and again and again. I lost track of how many shots went off. The smell of smoke, the aftermath, the air foggy from all the gunshots that went off, the smell of gunpowder and burnt flesh that filled the air. I was shot 7 times, literally from head to toe. Along with that, my children were in my arms lifeless. And I just lay there thinking of how. How did it get to this point? How did we get here? How and why did Gawain Rashane Wilson, aka Rush, take it this far? How? I thought he was my Prince Charming. He was there for me in every way. And perfect at first. The first night we met, we talked for 7 hours straight. Our night didn't end until I had to go to work. My car battery even died and he moved heaven and earth to get it restarted for me. We molded perfectly together. We could talk for hours. He made me feel like a princess. Our relationship moved so fast I was living with him in less than 2 months. I loved him with all my heart, but something wasn't right. Nothing was ever right. I was never good enough, pretty enough. I was never what he needed or wanted. There are 3 things that stand out to me today. 3 things that should have let me know when I was in an abusive relationship. He was very short-tempered over little things. That was sign number 1. I remember one day we got in an argument because dinner wasn't done on his time and he threw a coffee table at me. That wasn't the first time he threw things. He immediately began to be overly apologetic. That was sign number 2. Overly apologetic over anything and everything. I remember being in the car and a car swerved into our lane while driving our brand new car. He punched the wheel and left a dent in the steering wheel. He apologized for days. He apologized for simple things like not cuddling because he was hot or leaving the fridge open as he made something. He was always critical though, always, and that was sign number 3. My weight was a huge one, especially after I had the girls. 3 days after having the girls, he asked me if I was going to lose the weight I had gained. I only gained 30 pounds with twins. I wasn't that big. But to him, it was everything. The way I dressed. If I left the house, I had to have my makeup on and a cute outfit on. We never left the house looking a mess. It was unacceptable. I'm the type of girl that wears leggings every day with a t-shirt and bands. I was not used to this, but I let it go because I thought he was trying to make me better. I thought this was just his personality. I had never been in a serious relationship before. I had no idea what to expect or what I was doing, let alone he was 6.5 years older than me. I always appreciated his apologies. Sometimes they were cute, sometimes unnecessary. I thought this was him, and if I loved him, I needed to embrace all of him. As far as him being critical, I was always very critical over myself. I thought he was pushing me to be better. What do I know now though? What did I learn from being in an abusive relationship for over a year and having twins with this man? I learned that I deserve more. I deserve to be loved and appreciated in a healthy manner. That if I don't choose the right relationship, I will end up right where I was, right back in a situation where I was so torn down and felt so worthless. I don't ever want to return to the depths of hell that I was living in. I've learned there are other ways to support you, other ways to love, because in all reality, there was never love present on his end. I'm strong now. I love myself. I am surviving this aftermath. I will continue to fight for women and men who are in abusive relationships, fight for their freedom, fight for them to know what real love is, what a real healthy relationship is. Thank you.
So Megan, thank you for your courage for being here with us today. So again, I want to thank all of our, obviously our law enforcement partners that are here with us today. I want to thank all the service providers. We couldn't do this work without you. Thank you for that every single day. And again, also like to thank the members of the media who come out each year to cover this event and October's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Remember, everybody grab a pen, make sure you wear that pen, and make sure that we are retweeting today and sharing on Facebook. So with that, we'll close the event. Thank you so much for